Welcome to the Cyber Rants Podcast, where we're all about sharing the forbidden secrets and slightly embellished truths about corporate cybersecurity programs. We're ranting, we're raving, and we're telling you the stuff that nobody talks about on their fancy website and trade show giveaways, all to protect you from cybersecurity criminals. And now, here's your hosts, Mike Rotondo, Zach Fuller, and Lauro Chavez.
And we're back for the Cyber Rants Podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is your co-host, Zach Fuller, joined by Mike Rotondo and Lauro Chavez. And today we are talking about virtual CISOs, or some call it CISO as a service. But before we dive into that deep topic, Mike, you want to kick us off with the news?
LinkedIn confirmed that it was not a victim of a data breach. There was a messaging out there that LinkedIn had been hacked. Apparently, they have formally denied that the recent disclosed data leak was caused by a security breach. Data that was obtained was via web scraping, which whatever. Anyway, they're saying they didn't get breached. How ransomware gangs are connected, sharing resources and tactics. Apparently, they're starting to create cartels. Many don't realize that they are often interconnected. Some of the gangs behind the ransomware campaigns that we read about have established relationships, being in league with each other. They use shared data leak sites and in some cases shared infrastructure. FBI arrests man for plan to kill 70% of the internet in AWS bomb attack. I don't think the guy understands how the internet works, but anyway, the guy tried to blow up the internet in AWS data center in Ashburn, Virginia. Just in time for tax season, watch out for this W-2 phishing scam targeting the 2021 tax season. Apparently, there's a email that will go out to some people, saying you can download your tax return here from OneDrive. It is a form that has embedded macros that will basically steal your identity. Microsoft has busy April Patch Tuesday with 0 days in Exchange fixes. They released patches for 110 security holes, 19 of those classified as critical, 88 considered important. The Justice Department announced its court-authorized effort to disrupt exploitation of Microsoft Exchange server vulnerabilities. This is kind of an interesting one because the courts authorized the FBI to go ahead and fix the Exchange servers that hadn't been patched. Altruistic, sure. The problem is they did it without notice to any of the companies that they fixed. And they are still trying to track down those companies they fixed and let them know that they actually did fix them. Now, you should have patched the Exchange servers when all that came out. I'm not sure how I feel about the FBI going in and just randomly updating servers for you. Microsoft patches 4 more critical Exchange server bugs. Again, Microsoft just is having a bad week. Update your Chrome browser to patch 2 new in the wild 0-day exploits. Google continues to have problems. COVID-related threats, PowerShell attacks lead to malware surge. PowerShell Trojans, along with SolarWinds compromise and continued spread of Sunburst malware, were major contributors to a massive spike in the number of observed attacks in the wild during the last half of 2020. This is staggering. McAfee said attacks averaged 588 per minute in Q3 and Q4. Q4 actually was higher than Q3 with 648 per minute. Ransomware attack causes supermarket cheese shortage in the Netherlands. This had me very sad. They apparently, a distributor got hacked and they were unable to deliver cheese in the Netherlands for almost a week. FireEye has 650 new threat groups were tracked in 2020. It continues to grow. Mandiant experts investigate intrusions that involve 246 distinct threat groups. Organizations faced intrusions by 4 named financial threat groups, 6 named advanced persistent APT groups, including groups from the nation states of China, Iran, and Vietnam, and 236 uncharacterized threat groups. So it's bad out there. Intelligence reports 4 nations pose serious cyber threat to the U.S. This is a kind of like slap your face palm one. It's China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Big surprise. But that comes from the ODNI. Global attacker dwell time drops to just 24 days. That's quite an improvement. 59% of organizations detected attackers with their own environments over the period, a 12 percentage point increase on the previous year. So that's good. Attackers target proxy log and exploit to install CryptoLocker. Cryptojacking can be added to the list of threats that face any unpatched exchange servers that remain vulnerable to the now infamous proxy logon exploit. They're now using a Monero crypto miner for that. And that's all the headlines. Laurel?
Thanks, Mike. Blowing up the Amazon data center, huh? Yeah, real smart idea.
Yeah.
Somebody's been watching Fight Club a little too much, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, for exploitation this week, we've only got a couple things. Most importantly, though, is going to be jQuery. I've been talking about this for a while. One of the libraries that I commonly see in my pen testing work that organizations are failing to keep updated as part of their software delivery and continuous patching and scanning programs. They're missing the jQuery libraries that are doing a lot of horsepower work for the website. So make sure you're updating those. This is going to be the third or fourth week that I've seen various types of attacks for jQuery 1. And this week we've got 2 more from an independent tester for cross-site scripting using jQuery, which could end up being pretty harmful depending on where you're pulling your library from or if you're hosting it. And the other one this week is really for GetSimple CMS. If you're not familiar with that, the SMTP Complat plugin has a remote code execution for it, which is pretty serious. So if you're using GetSimple, make sure that you're upgrading away from that contact plugin. And that's pretty much it for this week in exploitation. Just remember, if you can't exploit it, is it really vulnerable?
The question of the century. Will we ever know the answer?
I thought it was at the center of like a lollipop of some kind or something. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Laura and I have been at the forefront of some of those wasted efforts of spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours trying to fix something that was not exploitable because some manager decided that it had to be done.
All the wisdom.
Yeah, that's a word for that. Sure.
What was that one? I don't know. There's some hack that came out a couple of years ago that you actually had to have physical proximity to the server in order to hack it. So, working for a very large company with secure data centers, who's going to hack it? Who's going to actually have physical proximity to it and then hack? Anyway.
The admin, whatever.
Yeah, if you get a rogue admin, you got bigger problems.
Yeah, because he's gonna exploit that server, instead of using his admin password. So
yeah,
I guess you've never seen Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise in action. It could happen.
Yeah,
it could.
Or Swordfish. Yeah, it can happen.
Swordfish. Yes, but you have to have 16 displays and a chair that lays all the way back in order to get the Hydra.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't find the Hydra without at least 6 27-inch monitors. No way.
Right.
And Halle Berry helps.
True story. Well, the topic of today, speaking of great wisdom, is virtual CISO or CISO as a service. And before we dive into it too deep, let's just start with an overview of what it is. Basically, what happens is when small or emerging companies start growing, they inevitably reach a point where they say, hey, we need to do something about cybersecurity. We have technology now, we have customer data, we have systems that we rely on for operations that need to be protected, and we're not doing it adequately. On top of that, compliance requirements, and on and on. And so the natural place to look is for a virtual CISO or CISO as a service type solution. And generally what these are, not always, but for the most part, a virtual CISO or CISO as a service is going to be an individual consultant, kind of a individual person that just advises companies. They might have a couple of clients that they work with at any given time, and they will be there to help guide and direct their cybersecurity program. So there are a lot of pros and cons, and there are companies that virtual CISOs are great for and others not so much, but that's what we're here to talk about today. And before we do, Mike or Laura, what have you been seeing out there in the virtual CISO space? What's been going well for them, and where do they fall short of companies' needs?
Well, one of the things that I see is that the expectations aren't set properly for the vCISO a lot of times, and everything may be spelled out in a SAL, but there's still some miscommunication or misunderstanding that, vCISO is not a button to see it. He's not necessarily going to be your security engineer. He's not going to be looking at your tools. He's not going to be, that's not really what he's there for. So that's what I see that's the biggest pitfall I see, is that the expectations aren't set properly. That being said, we also run into issues where they go and they're excited and they're jacked up to get the vCISO in because they're going to do all these initiatives, and then you can't get meetings set and the appropriate resources aren't available because they're running around fighting fires in KTLO land. So, and then you have the other companies that just are gangbusters, where they're like, yeah, sign us more stuff. We'll do it. And they actually track it and go forward. So that's what I see a lot of.
Yeah, I see pretty much the same stuff. I think that there's a misconception that just because the individual is titled as a chief information security officer, that they know everything about cybersecurity. Right. And so, I think back to those, expectations, right? I think you need to understand that this typical individual is going to be a leadership type, and it's going to have kind of a more strategic overview to assist you in your activities, but you're going to, like Mike said, you're going to be required to do a lot of the work. Okay. They'll point out shortcomings and things. And, probably one of the first things they're going to say is you don't have enough people. So, that's like kind of a reoccurring thing I hear a lot. A lot of the organizations that we see getting this kind of vCISO consultation type work are just really finding out that they, kind of the obvious, right? They need more tools, and they need more people to manage the tools.
Yeah.
Or they need more capabilities rather than tools, right? And that, in some senses, that will come with tools, but they need more capability, and they need more people to manage that capabilities.
Yeah. A lot of people just want to check that box, right? Oh, we've got a CISO now. We're going to get all this stuff done. And it doesn't work that way. There's really actual effort. More tools isn't necessarily the answer. It's more resources. And we all know resources are scarce, but, start training people, find interns, do what you can.
Yeah, I certainly think there's value there. I think we see organizations that see, that have obtained value from using, various vCISO resources to have that type of strategic vision for cybersecurity. Right. But you have to remember that it's a couple year plan, right? They're not gonna look at activities to help you, get shored up in the next couple months, right? They may have that capability, but a lot of them are going to be a strategic perspective of the business and dealing with privacy and risk over the course of the next several years. And to try to position you in a place to get budgets right and get people right, to kind of understand what assets you have today, not necessarily to come and be your full, cybersecurity team, right? Or to even manage your cybersecurity team that you may or may not have.
Oh, I was going to say, and in all fairness to the organizations hiring vCISOs, a lot of times they're marketed as a one-stop shop. We're going to do everything. The website would make it appear that, you hire me and your entire security program just falls into place, right? So that we do see a lot of the marketing around that stuff. We do see a lot of kind of misrepresentation, but that's not, not always the case. Now, a good vCISO, I think, will right up front tell you where they are strong, which, like you both mentioned, is really around the strategy, a high level governance and compliance, right? They can support the development of policies and procedures for your organization, guide the leadership and better decision making, and then probably help bring in other resources or vet other resources. But it's certainly not a one-stop shop.
Want even more Cyber Rants? Be sure to subscribe to the Cyber Rants podcast. Get your copy of our best-selling book, Cyber Rants, on Amazon today. This podcast is brought to you by Silent Sector, the firm dedicated to building world-class cybersecurity programs for mid-market and emerging companies across the U.S. Silent Sector also provides industry-leading penetration tests and cyber risk assessments. Visit silentsector.com and contact us today.
The clickbait is real, right? And I think a lot of it is cutting through the I call them nothing burgers, right? Cut through that, and then find yourself a good resource that does meet those expectations you have. But you're absolutely right, Zach. It's very, very common.
Yeah, and sadly, we're finding a lot of people that are fly-by-night, one-stop shop guys, or try to be, and they, throw out some garbage and really makes things worse than when they started. But they're great sales type people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that in the security world because they speak a language that people don't understand, and sound smart, and then make a mess.
Like that risk assessment we just looked at from that CISSP that basically just went down a list and checked. It was a check or an X of whether the control is implemented.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Absolute garbage, and I'm sure they paid a ton for it. And just like, and actually, we've seen like pen test reports from big companies too that are absolutely machine language garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But.
Well, it's sad because these organizations are, here's the thing: is cybersecurity is popular right now, right? Unfortunately, I mean, bad guys are working around the clock. So every IT company who was in the game before is now trying to get a leg in cybersecurity, right? And so they're offering different various services, and I think that marketing is really driven, solely around a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the proliferation of MSSPs or MSPs that are trying to sell themselves as security people because someone's reading a CISSP book at the office and they're now
they're not an expert. Yeah, and that's sad. See, the organizations, right, and they're trusting these cybersecurity organizations to have operations of high integrity, and they're really just winging it. And so they don't. What's sad is that now they have a false sense of risk,
right?
And a false sense of objectives that they need to complete or that they should have completed, and because the assessor wants to give them good marks, right, or be lenient, right, be seen as a lenient assessor, and unfortunately, leniency doesn't drive proactive cybersecurity processes.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I mean you have to tell truth, right? You have to say what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right, and
no, let's be honest, like no organization really, there's a very small subset of organizations that want to be proactive in cybersecurity on their own. Yeah. Typically it's all downstream from a governance or compliance they must meet, right?
Or client requirements.
And you got to go in as a VCSO and say, realize that facts don't care about your feelings. So it is what it is, right? This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. We'll fix it, and it's going to take X amount of time, but you're going to have to commit to it. And a lot of these companies just want the checkbox and the warm fuzzy that goes with it. And we've come across companies. I mean, and I'm not going to out any of our clients, but we have people that are hesitant because they've been burnt before, and you have to win that back and rebuild trust. And typically, we've done that by doing an ECRA first, an enterprise cyber risk assessment, and showing our worth, and then the VCSO gig comes from that afterwards.
It's like getting in a relationship and the person had a bad previous relationship, and you've kind of got to get through all that, right, to make them understand that you can be trusted and that sort of thing, right? So it does increase our work.
But and that said too, it's just like anything else, right? There are world-class VCSOs, and there's people that should never use that terminology on their website and their marketing materials and that sort of thing that are selling the service. So there's both sides, but I think in order to kind of guide people in the right direction, it's important to look at the background, their previous experience. Do they have actual cybersecurity experience working within large organizations?
Yeah,
because that's where you're through governance, right? You can't just be in like small business cybersecurity your entire life and then really function as at a CISO capacity, right? You need
be an IT manager and then get just kind of a magical title of security manager because nobody else would do the job, right?
Right. You need real world experience in a large environment where there's a lot of structure, where there are a lot of systems and processes that have to be in place in order to adequately manage cyber risk. So I think that's one of the things to look for in the background. Certifications, of course, but like we talked about, that's not everything, right? Because people can go out and study and take the test, right? But I would look for that prior experience. Where have they operated? What large corporations, Fortune 500s, what government entities, things like that, to see, okay, where's the basis of knowledge coming from? And if that's not there, it's probably not all that real, right? Because the books only go so far, the certs are only going to take you so far. That actual experience has to come into play. So it's something to look for. And I think you'll find there are some really good vCISOs or CISO as a service out there that have a more robust background. And another thing to look for too is how do they operate, right? So one of the things that I've seen, curious to hear your thought about this, and I think this is a huge disservice, but there are companies out there that are charged by the hour virtual CISO, basically call us when you need us. Now there's a severe problem with that, because the vCISO should be driving the show, driving the security strategy and operations, continuing to push forward proactively at all times. It's not a reactive type measure. And so I would consider that too. What does their structure look like? Are they coming to you with a plan that's well articulated, well laid out, and reasonable? Or are they saying, call us when you need us and book some time and we'll just charge you by the hour? Because if they're doing the latter, that's not going to build a program for you. It just won't.
No, that's a security help desk. That's not a VC. So, and we do some things that are a bucket of hours, but they're a specific bucket of hours for a specific purpose.
Right.
As opposed to a VC. So, but I just wanted to go back to two things. One, when you're looking for a VC, so you're looking for someone that's had experience. You don't want someone that's worked at the same company for 25 years and that's all they know. They need to have breadth of experience. They need to have done this at 3 or 4 or 5 different companies, right? You can commend the loyalty of being there for 25 years in one place, but in reality, you only know one way of doing things then. The other thing is, on some of the certs, while all certs are not created equal, some of them do actually require experience points to get, like some of the CISSP and CRISC and those kind of things from ISACA and ISP squared. However, we've also seen where people are fudging that experience and that sort of thing. So it is kind of still a crapshoot, even though they're requiring experience to get that actual cert. So,
yeah, good stuff. And you can always ask too. First, meeting with these professionals, ask the company to have you meet with the VC so it's going to be assigned to you. That way you don't sign up for a service and you meet one individual, and then when it comes time to actually do the work, you get somebody completely different that you never met before. I see that happen a lot. Yeah. Right. Well, they have like the main individual is really, really well versed, very articulate in the subject, and then you'll get kind of a B or C level player that'll get kind of put into place. So interview the organizations, and I like to do is ask about a LinkedIn page. If you have a security professional that's claiming a lot of things that don't have a LinkedIn yet, you should be concerned. Right. And I don't do social media as not an excuse for LinkedIn for a cybersecurity professional today, right? You don't have to do Instagram or Facebook or Gab or any of the other alt tech stuff, but LinkedIn is, certainly a place for professionals. So look for that. And then also ask them to describe some successes that they've had in their career of doing vCISO work and where they've had some failures. And I think that will give you a realistic picture of that individual's capabilities.
Yeah, very good points.
Excellent point. Yeah, it always kills me when these people like hide even on LinkedIn. It's like, well, are you actually doing business? Because if you're a security professional, you're not afraid of getting hacked through LinkedIn or the open source intelligence gathering through LinkedIn, right? Because you're protecting yourself in other ways. But reality is you still have to do business, so that presence still matters. And then another thing I'd add to that too is all these certifications are verifiable, right? Everybody's got a certification number assigned to their certs, and that can be validated on the governing body's website. So whether it's EC Council or ISACA, ISC squared, any of those, you can validate that person does in fact have the certification and it's active. And that can just be a step in the vetting process. But I think all excellent points. And so to go back, and do a little bit of a recap. So we've talked about the virtual CISO or CISO as a service is not a one size fits all approach, right? It should be tailored to the organization. The services should be tailored to the organization because every company is unique, right? And your vCISOs, generally speaking, it's a rarity to have both, but they're generally going to be on the strategic side, not on the technical side. So they're going to handle the governance and compliance and strategy, and then they're generally going to bring in third parties to do things like penetration testing, implementing tools, technical configurations, building hardening images, things like that, that they don't have the background or skill set to do on their own. If you get one that can do both, that's a rarity. But generally speaking, you have to consider your budget and resource allocation of your own team members. If you have some technical people that can handle these projects at the direction of the vCISO, but you have to consider those additional factors on top of the vCISO price, right? Because it's not going to be whatever the vCISO charges you. It's not going to be the end all be all budget that you need for cybersecurity.
Well, the vCISO needs to be technical. I mean, they need to at least understand, or at least have had, done this in the past, kind of thing. Like, Laurel handles, most of or all of our pen testing. His team does that. But, in the past, I had that skill set. I don't do it anymore. It's molded over, but I still understand the language, where I focus more on compliance and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's they need to have that background and at least understand, what's going on, right?
Right.
You're still a good hacker. What are you talking about, man?
Well, yeah, I guess my point in the way we do things is, I think, quite a bit different than what we see out there in the industry for a good reason. That's how we've designed it, right? So it's bringing in a team together to bring in all the components that are needed. Of course, we don't sell products and tools and things like that. They can get those elsewhere. But for us, the focus is bringing in the strategic and technical realm of expertise and the hands-on support, right? So we're not just going to stop at the guidance. We're going to do the implementation and support as well. But that's generally that for the most part in the marketplace, that does not fall under a vCISO type service. That's kind of an offering of its own. Excellent points about the virtual CISO or CISO as a service. They can be a tremendous asset for an organization. And just like anything else, there are virtual CISOs that are absolutely world-class and do a great job. And there are those that are completely misrepresenting their skill set and their service. So be careful when you're shopping out there, folks. It's not all the same everywhere you go. Just because they say they can do cybersecurity doesn't mean they can do cybersecurity. So Mike, Laura, any final comments before we wrap up?
Just don't buy into all the buzzwords and everything like that, because they'll throw terms out there that make them sound smart that aren't necessarily are smart. Check the background, check the website, make sure it's who you're talking to is really who you're talking to, and if you are concerned, then do the trial basis, do a cyber risk assessment, see what kind of work they actually produce. Or ask to see if they can provide you a sanitized report of some kind, that type of thing. But it is a critical need, and everybody needs to have, or every company needs to have some kind of security direction, especially in this world today. I mean, I think one of the headlines didn't we say there were 680 attacks per minute, according to McAfee. So cybersecurity criminals aren't slowing down. So you need the help.
Yeah, good points. Clickbait is real. Just to add on to that, clickbait's a real thing. They're using keywords, right? They want you to contact them, right? Everybody's trying to get in on this game right now. So think of it as like car mechanics, okay? If you Google car mechanics in your area, I'm sure there's a lot of individuals that operate out of professional dealerships and their home garages. Yeah. So, it may look like a cost-effective option, but then when you start having issues later, you're going to end up going to the dealership anyway. So, just make sure you're making the right choices for the problems that you need to solve. And if you're looking for that leadership, that you're, like Mike said, you're checking that individual and asking good questions.
Make sure your virtual CISOs have good beards.
Well, that's required. Yeah.
That's a sign of expertise, I thought.
Of wisdom, right?
Exactly.
It works for both of you.
This makes me look old.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. on the Cyber Rants podcast. Check us out online at silentsector.com or grab a copy of the book on Amazon. But most importantly, if you like the podcast, subscribe, reach out, let us know your feedback, comments, all that. We'd always love to hear from you. And we will see you on the next podcast.
Pick up your copy of the Cyber Rants book on Amazon today. And if you're looking to take your cybersecurity program to the next level, visit us online at www.silentsector.com. Join us next time for another edition of the Cyber Rants podcast.